Okay, as far as a formal introduction, I am Dr. Lorian McCauley. I am the Sustainability and Agricultural Specialist here at Montgomery County Food Council, and I liaise the Equitable Land Access Working Group and Local Food Procurement Working Group. I also farmed for 2 years, the past 2 years before this season, in the Ag Reserve, which you'll hear me refer to a little bit during the presentation. I would love, if it's okay, to go ahead and pass it over to Massa Cressall, our Interim Executive Director, to do introductions and welcome.
Thank you, Maureen. Good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Massa Cressall. I'm the Interim Executive Director here at the Food Council. In just a moment, I'm going to pass it on to my fellow staff colleagues, as well as our Food Council members who are active in these two working groups, so that everyone can introduce themselves as well. But I just wanted to say briefly that I'm just really excited to bring the two working groups together today. This is sort of a celebration of all the great work and conversations and site visits that have taken place this year. So you're going to see lots of interesting kind of information in the slides as we kind of summarize everything that we've worked on and look ahead as well to what comes next. So thank you for being here. We look forward to your participation. And as Lorian said, we'll take your questions at the end and have time for discussion. But without further ado, I'd like to pass it to my fellow staff members first to introduce themselves. So Esther, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. My name is Esther Waldrop. I'm a program coordinator here at the Food Council, and I'm excited to be here. And I'm going to give the updates after the staff goes ahead and introduces themselves. So Michelle, would you like to go next?
Hi, everyone. Michelle Caruso with Food Council team, and I will pass it to Jack.
Morning, everyone. Jack Ewert. I'm also on staff here at the Food Council. I work on policy as well as community outreach. And I will pass it to, I'm looking for somebody.
I think that maybe
pass it back to you, Massa.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. There are many of us on this call, so I'm sort of scrolling to see if I've missed anybody. If I have, please speak up. But we'd like to introduce now our council members and board members who've been active in this work. So Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Morning, everyone. I'm Mike Houston. I'm the general manager of the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Food Co-op, and also on the board of the Food Council and also on the Food Council. I'm on everything. I'll pass it to Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Bittner. I am a member of the Food Council, and I participate in the Equitable Land Access Working Group. I work with CHEER. I'm the Neighborhood Gardening Program Director for the nonprofit CHEER. Thank you. Who's next?
Thanks, Lisa. Jenny Freeman, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Jennifer Freeman with Community Farm Share, and I'm active in the Procurement Working Group and member of the Food Council.
Thank you. Wendy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Wendy Nevitt Basil. I'm a member of the Food Council board, past Food Council member, and active on the Land Access Working Group and the Policy Committee of the Food Council. Currently a student now, a graduate student at UMaryland.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I think that's everybody for now. Lauren, unless I've missed anyone, I will pass it. No? Okay.
I don't think you have, but if we missed anybody on the leadership team of the working groups, please speak up now. Okay, great.
Great.
Esther, perhaps
Yes.
some updates.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to now share some general Food Council announcements. I'm sure many of you have seen these announcements and events in our newsletters. So I'm just going to recap them so you can make sure you attend. So just an announcement, the 2024 MoCo MAID registration is officially open and accepting applications. This program is for Montgomery County-based food and beverage businesses. So we encourage you to share that widely with your networks, any businesses that you know that are based or headquartered in Montgomery County. Definitely encourage them to register. And I'll drop the registration, any other links whenever I'm done with the announcements. Next up, mark your calendars for the Montgomery County Food Council Happy Hour on Wednesday, December 13th at Silver Branch Brewing from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. No registration is necessary. Just show up and come ready to mingle. And let's see, Giving Tuesday is a Tuesday after Thanksgiving, so we hope you'll consider the Food Council in your year-end giving this year, and you'll be seeing some communications surrounding Giving Tuesday shortly after Thanksgiving. Coming up, we have the Food System Advocacy Community Call on Wednesday, November 29th from 1 to 2 p.m. on Zoom, and I will drop that registration link in the chat. So that's our upcoming events, and I will drop these links right now. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Esther. And one of our presenters who is, sort of in charge of the introduction is having trouble logging in, Kate Medina, Executive Director of Corner Farm. So she will be joining us in a minute or two, but why don't we go ahead and get started with the introduction and our presentation for producing and procuring local food in MoCo. Let's see. Sorry, this always takes a moment. And can you all see okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right. So we wanted to first of all sort of answer the burning question, what are working groups and how are they sort of structured? The Food Council has a broad range of policy initiatives and interests across the food system. But for this year, we had talked about, basically what are the key issues in terms of what's the most critical, time sensitive, and possible to achieve that really we wanted to drill down into in terms of what I think of as the supply side of the food system. So in other words, if you're looking at the whole food system, this is sort of the supply side, and then the consumer side is taken on, in other areas by the Food Council, but as in the eating part of it. But here with the Equitable Land Access Working Group, we drill down into how to break down barriers to accessing land for food production. And we view it through an equity lens in order to achieve equitable land access. And then, of course, with the increased local food procurement working group, we break down barriers to purchasing that local food within institutional settings and retail wholesale settings. So that's basically, what I think of as you're growing the food, you're producing the food, and it needs then some mechanism to market it and distribute it to people. So we examine different policy and programming approaches, strategies. We really focus on what is in the county that's working well, and sort of what can we look at that can be expanded or perhaps tweaked to make it a little more impactful, and then where there are challenges and really drilling down into those challenges and understanding what can be done to reduce those challenges and reduce the barriers. So that's what we spend, we meet bi-monthly to talk about this. We typically have 24 to 45 participants in each group. Each group meets bi-monthly. So we have one working group meeting each month they alternate months. And then on the off month, when they are not meeting virtually to discuss a particular issue, we go on a site visit, which we like to think of as field trips. It's a learning opportunity for where we can drill down into one or another of our issue areas. And I see that Kate Medina has joined the call, and I would like to welcome her to the call. And hi, Kate.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, technical issues, but I'm here on my phone. How about that?
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for making it. I know we all have the technical issues, so welcome. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Kate Medina. I work at Coiner Farm in downtown Silver Spring, and I'm the executive director of the Charles Coiner Conservancy, which is the land trust that protects Coiner Farm and manages it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. We've just gone through our introduction to the working groups. And I would like to pass to Michelle Caruso to talk a little bit about our policy process overview.
Thanks, Lorian. So first of all, thanks everyone for joining us today. I was really impressed with everyone's introductions in the chat. What a great group of folks that have convened this morning. So thanks for spending your time with us today. Also, forgive me, I'm fighting off a cold. So if I'm blowing my nose or something over here, just, doing my best. But Lorian invited me to talk a little bit about our policy priorities and the way that they inform our work. So if you aren't familiar, we have 4 policy priorities. 2 of them are represented by these 2 working groups that are being convened this morning. We are currently in the process of coming out with new policy priorities, which happen on a 2-year cycle. So this is the end of the 2nd year that we've had these 4 policy priorities. Spoiler alert, these 2 priorities will not be dropped. So we're not having this meeting as a culmination. We've done a lot of learning and we want to move it forward and move into action next year. And, if the multitudes of speakers that are speaking this morning stay on time, which we're already a little behind, which is okay. We're hoping to have a robust discussion at the end of this call to plan with all of you how we can work together to advance these priorities and actually do some things next year, and what might those actions be. But most of our convenings are based on our 4 policy priorities. The policy committee is a group of volunteers from our Food Council council members and our board members who take policy positions on behalf of our organization. So our staff don't take policy positions. It goes to our policy committee. They vote and they advise us on positions that we should or shouldn't take. We do track all of our formal policy actions in a tracker that we can drop in the chat. And then we have our advocacy community call that Esther already referenced on a mostly monthly basis, and it'll be happening the week after Thanksgiving. So we hope to see you there. If you want like a 15-minute version of what I just said with a lot more detail, I'm going to drop a link to our YouTube channel, and we have it up there in more depth about how our policy process works at the Food Council. Back to you, Lorian.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Michelle. And with that in mind, we have our working groups that feed into our overall policy formation, and we drive for what we sort of think of as driving for solutions. And in our working group, we really strive to engage different perspectives to find solutions to the issues that are raised. And we always try to ask what can be done on a county level. Of course, conversations can veer quickly into federal issues and national issues, but we try to embody the old expression of think globally, act locally. And how can existing policies and programs be adapted? So we try to look at what's there and then look at where the possibilities are. We try to engage our county's planning efforts. So we've looked recently at the Fairland Briggs Cheney Master Plan, the Parks Capital Improvement Plan, the Tacoma Park Minor Master Plan, and seeing where, our work can kind of help expand on the initiatives that are put forth in those plans. We're engaging with the county's already expressed aims, and our approaches. We also use of course, we try always to use experiential learning. So I mentioned field trips. We try to engage, through really looking at the site where you really learn more about the issues. We engage speakers that are experts on the topics we need to learn about. We meet with the county council. We host legislative events such as the legislative breakfast, our agricultural reserve bus tour that we did in partnership with Office of Ag and Office of Food System Resilience, and other events. So we try to use other approaches. Also, I wanted to mention that speaking of aligning with, the county's express aims, we feel that this work, the food system strives always to have, a food system that is equitable, sustainable, resilient. And we here align with the county's resilience aims. Obviously, I think we're all aware that recent supply chain disruptions and the food prices that were very high recently sort of underscored the need that we need other purchasing options. We need local purchasing options. We need not just super small food and huge food, but we need that infrastructure of the middle. And we need to build redundancy in the system so there's not just one supplier of food. And that we are, ensuring a safe and secure food supply, right? And I'd like to point out that on the production side, one of the things we always like to just say out loud is that policy solutions are appropriate because our small and mid-sized farms must compete with the large commodity farms who participate and are able to take advantage of these huge federal programs like, the H-2A farm worker program, commodity payouts, crop insurance program. So that is just an important goal. And Kate, I'd like to ask if, I know you wanted to say something about this. I'd like to ask if you want to add anything to framing the issues aligning with resilience goals.
No, I just think that this is just, you did a great job, Lorian. So thank you. And I don't really have much to add other than to say, like, this is a really important slide. We've spent 2022 coming up with the areas we wanted to focus on. We've now spent 2023 diving into these policy areas that we chose to focus on. And sort of, this is, if we were to take like all of these site visits, all of these conversations, all of these legislative breakfasts that were just mentioned, I think that this is the main point and where we want to ensure that our policy suggestions are focused on improving this situation to make sure that there is infrastructure in the middle, that it's not just these farms that are operating on an island. Because true, like resilience in the agriculture system, it relies on having multiple farms that can lean on each other. No one farm can do it all. And then in addition, having the network to support those farms. So do local insurance companies know what it takes to insure a farm these days? If we had enough farms, could we pool together and become eligible for some of these federal programs if there were, So anyway, I just think you nailed it, Lorian. Thank you, but it's a really important point.
Thank you, Kate. So first, I'd like to just discuss some of the things that we talked about in the Equitable Land Access Working Group. With our meeting topics, we covered a lot. So this was just a summary of, a very, very, kind of cursory summary of a lot of things we talked about. We did examine at first our current Montgomery land use policy and planning and zoning. And then we sort of identified 3 policy issue areas to work on: the equity of land access in the ag reserve, and urban ag promotion, and then food production on public or communal lands. We did some site visits. We visited the Cheer Gardens and Crossroads Farmers Market in the Tacoma Park area. We visited Eco City Urban Farm Incubator in Prince George's County. We'll talk about that. And coming soon, After Thrive, we had to, due to logistic issues, reschedule our visit, but that will be, we'll be visiting After Thrive in the spring. First off, I wanted to just, sort of prime the conversation about equity and land ownership in the agricultural reserve and talk a little bit about this issue. It's sort of goes without saying that the agricultural reserve, for anyone who's ever sort of been there and traveled, it's probably not a huge surprise that 98% of the farmland in Montgomery County is owned by white owners. This is according to the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice memo of February 1st, which we can share it with these slides. I wanted to say it's also an issue of the farm size, that farms owned by white owners on average tend to be over 4 times the size of farms that on average are owned by people of color. So it's the issues surrounding land ownership and size of plots in the agricultural reserve is inherently an equity issue. So it can't be separated from the issue. As an example, we had started to talk, and it's an extremely complex and thorny issue. So we had started to talk about the TDR building lot termination program, and see the social justice memo for reference, but or the memo from the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice as a reference. But that's just one example of like the idea that the TDRs are talked about as a mechanism to sort of free up land in the ag reserve for folks. However, that is an issue because it would benefit landowners in the ag reserve, and 98% of farmland in the ag reserve is owned by white owners. So it's kind of a thorny issue. We're just starting to talk about it, and we plan to talk about it more. Also, I wanted to point out that we have talked to farmers who are leasing their land. Now, leasing land as a farmer is sort of another sort of catch-22 or thorny issue, because as a beginning farmer, one of the ways to access land is through a land lease. However, that does not help with the issue of wealth accumulation, because you do not own the land, thus you're not accumulating wealth as you go and improve that land and improve the soil and build high tunnels and build sheds and outbuildings and work with the irrigation. All that value you're putting into the land is actually, it stays with the land. So if you lost your lease, you have an issue. So AfroThrive is an example of a farm that is on leased land. However, the wealth accumulation issue persists, and the land itself is less than ideal. So, for example, they need irrigation, they need vehicle and transportation access. People can't get to the farm, but volunteers and laborers, and they've been unable to access grants because they're leasing, they're not owning. So the grant requirements require farm ownership, not leasing, so they can't access grants. So that's a problem that we've identified with this leasing land. Also, as I mentioned, you lose your farm lease. If you lose your farm lease, it means losing all those capital investments you made on that land, since farming is so place-based. You can't just easily sell off all your equipment like you can perhaps with other businesses more easily. And we heard from Mark Grossman at the farmer at our house about this issue, who basically said, he would lose everything on it that he's put on his land if for whatever reason the landowners decided to not renew his lease. Also with Ryan at Common Root Farm, he's on leased land, and when we visited his farm, it basically was sort of an example of a farm that he said that, hey, like if I have to go under, and I might have to, I would lose a lot of the improvements on the land. So that's just an introduction to that issue, and we'll be working on that more next year. And back to you, Kate.
Okay, there we go. Hi, great job, Lorian. Yes, so as Lorian said, we're incredibly fortunate to have a county with an ag reserve. And so that's the biggest piece of the pie and where a lot of our focus should be, right? That's where we have the greatest potential to make a difference here in the areas we're trying to focus on in terms of production, land access. However, I was just at the Maryland Land Conservation Conference, and the executive director of the American Farmland Trust was there. And he said one thing that really has stuck with me, and that was that, the American Farmland Trust, they gather so much data. They put out these really robust reports. And one area that they look at is young people starting farm businesses. And the trend has been, of course, going down for decades. But for the first time, they've begun to see young people starting farm businesses, more young people starting farm businesses than the year previously. They attributed part of this, they theorized that part of this was because of urban farming, getting that, experience right there in their neighborhood. With more urban farms, more people are having the sort of inspiration to maybe pursue a farming business. So I thought that was just like a really interesting nugget, that if we are focused on that, the potential of the ag reserve, one way to get there is through urban farming in terms of incubating and inspiring these young farmers. So to the Urban Ag Tax Credit, which was passed in March of 2017, this program is administered by the Office of Ag. But currently, even though it's been in existence now for almost 6 years, over 6 years, it only has 2 farms that are eligible, that can meet the requirements. And there have been issues with inconsistencies of the bill. Specifically, there's language that says food is either, no, not either. It says food is sold or donated. And so a farm that wants to sell some and donate some, that total quantity, the value of the donated part would not qualify because it says or, not and. So anyway, so there's just some issues with this program. So we have, this was considered, I will also add, when we looked at our policy areas, the Montgomery County's Urban Ag Tax Credit Program was considered a low-hanging fruit. So we have very specific changes that we recommend to this program. So in terms of increasing eligibility and equitability of this program, we have 3 suggestions. One is lower the annual farm income requirement. Right now, it's $5,000. I will add that USDA defines a farm as $1,000 worth of farm products produced. The Maryland Office of Agriculture defines a farm as $2,500 worth of farm products. DC and PG County have almost the exact same urban ag tax credit programs, and they have no requirement for the value of produce of farm products sold or donated. But in Montgomery County, ours is the highest. It's at 5,000. So lowering that. To removing the distance from public transportation requirement. Right now, we're required to be within a half a mile of a metro zone, of which there are only 10 in Montgomery County. It doesn't mean a metro station. In PG County and in DC, they don't set where urban agriculture can happen based on distance from transportation hubs. They base it on zoning, which makes a lot more sense. And I think that we should do the same here in Montgomery County. In Prince George's County, also the Soil Conservation District, they produce this really easy to use map that shows, well, first of all, I would say that in PG County, it's allowed in all major zones. So residential, commercial, and industrial zones. It's allowed. Now, within the subzones of those areas, they dig into more detail. And so there's this great map that you can use, and then an associated tool that kind of defines what the map codes mean. So we could look at that. The link is provided in the slides. And then in DC, their program is administered by the Maryland Department of Energy and Environment. And they actually have an urban ag leasing program. So they really try to connect those aspiring to become urban farmers with not only city-owned land, but also others. So just like our Land Link program that we have through MCA, through the Montgomery Countryside Alliance for the Ag Reserve, DC has one for DC, not just in rural areas. So you can see how that might work. And the link, again, provided in the slides. And then the final requirement is something that would be unique to Montgomery County. And that is setting an annual income threshold requirement for eligibility for the tax credit. So this really gets at the equity piece, that equity lens that we've overlaid over all of our policy considerations. So this would, I would also add that neither DC nor PG County had anything like this, and Baltimore doesn't either. So this would be unique to Montgomery County. But it could help buffer against any concerns over tax revenue lost, especially if we're bringing this sort of tax credit program to the county council. They're probably still a little raw from last year's budget negotiations and are not looking forward to this year's budget negotiations. It could be a tougher sell if we don't have really sort of some considerations about tax revenue generated. And then, as I said, it would also just really address that land equity piece that we're trying to get at. That's the point here. And then finally, I think Lauren already mentioned Tacoma Parks Minor Master Plan. There's some great language in there. I give this section here, section 3316, about community gardens, about local food systems, community health services that urban gardens, urban farms can provide. And we could kind of steal some of that language to make sure that this bill is really getting at those equity goals, the equity intent that we're trying to achieve. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Who do I go to next? Looks like Lisa, are you next after me?
Yes, thanks so much, Kate. it really helps to have all of that context, I think, and to be not only looking at the situation in Montgomery County, but looking at our surrounding jurisdictions and how we compare and how we can learn from them about what we can do more and better, and particularly with an equity lens. So thanks so much. That was excellent, Kate. So I will speak briefly about the tour that we took of the Cheer Gardens. But I want to give just a little bit of background on Cheer itself and how we got started. Cheer is a community-based organization based in the Long Branch neighborhood of Silver Spring. And our objective is to empower and raise community voices in historically underinvested neighborhoods. The gardening program started in January of 2021 in the heart of the pandemic with a very small short-term 6-month grant from the Food Council, for which we are extremely grateful because that got us started. And the intention was to use a large garden at a neighborhood elementary school because it was available. It was a large space and it made a lot of sense. It was a low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And we could work with the community for the community and distribute through our weekly food distributions. But I think that that concept was just maybe not workable for MCPS at that time. So we got creative and we work to facilitate access for people who don't have space of their own in which to grow food to private properties where homeowners lend their land, their yards, their front yard, their backyard for community use. And I just want to take this opportunity to distinguish what we call community-based or neighborhood-based gardening from community gardens, because at least in Montgomery County and the Montgomery County park system, when we use the term community gardens, that model is where a plot of, say, 10 feet by 20 feet will be leased to someone for their personal use. And in this case, we're talking about a group working together as a community in the different gardens that we are working. So together, as a group, we manage 6 small spaces within a 2-block radius. So it's walkable and we can go to all gardens in one morning if we should so choose. It's a multicultural group. We have participants from Guatemala, El Salvador, Ethiopia, and have had participants from Mexico, Cameroon, and Sudan. And every few months, there's a core group that stays, and people come when they can, and when they can get paid work, they do. But everybody who has come has really thrived. We March through November, we work together 3 days a week. The group chooses what to plant, and they share knowledge about growing from their own experience in their own countries if they have it. If they don't, they're there to learn from others and to learn about how to grow in this climate. And Cheer supports that educational process and exchange. We got so excited about what we were learning from each other in the gardens that we decided it was kind of imperative that we cook together, because it was always a conversation about how do you use this and why do you use that and how do I do this. So we started utilizing the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Community Kitchen, managed by Crossroads Community Food Network, and that's been a real added benefit of working together in this community. In the winter months, we meet less frequently, and we focus on looking back at what we've done, how we can improve what we're doing, and we plan together. And we also socialize to maintain that continuity. A key partnership through all of this has been Crossroads Farmers Market. Cheer purchases and then distributes market tokens to anyone who comes at least once a week. And that way we're sort of we're helping on the one hand to acknowledge the time investment that community members are making, make it a little bit more possible for them to come. And we're reinvesting that in the local food system by supporting farmers who sell at Crossroads Market. We also are hosting a table on a monthly basis at the farmers market, which has been an incredible way to engage the community and also invite more community members to the gardens. And that has been a way that we've made incredible connections and increased the participation in the program. I want to say here that I know that a lot of what we've done in our working group is to focus on addressing food insecurity and increasing production. And we absolutely are working to increase our own production every year through improved techniques, vertical growing, you have it. But if it were only that, I mean, we focus on much more than just the production aspect. We focus on broader benefits to the participants of coming on a regular basis. So increased social connections, cross-cultural relationships, we're strengthening community and improving mental health for this group. And it's what keeps people coming up to 3 times a week. But a key here, I think, in conclusion, has been that it's been really important to have a community-based organization that has the local community connections, provides legitimacy for the community, provides programming and material support, and a bridge to this broader community that's talking about policy. And of course, it limits liability. And at the same time, I guess I'll close by just saying that, as it might be evident, 6 small gardens spread out that require moving one to another isn't the most efficient production system. Ideally, we would have access to a single, more centralized property where we could, plan more effectively in that space. And we have been looking for that opportunity. I don't know if Kate at some point wants to comment at all on that, but on public lands, but in an urban environment, there are fewer opportunities than out in the ag reserve or even in the between where we are in this highly dense neighborhood. So I guess I'll pass it on to whoever's next. But thanks so much to everyone who's been supportive of this program and for your visit.
And thank you so much, Lisa Bittner. That was, as you can see from our photos, it was a beautiful space. We just, learned so much being there and really felt that part of the community. Another site visit we also did, I'd like to just quickly talk about, is when we visited Eco City Urban Farm, and that's in PG County. I'm sorry, Prince George's County. I'm trying to stop saying PG County as a rule. It's just briefly, it's an amazing place. If you've never been, you should go and just see it for yourself. It is amazing. It is an 11-acre site. It's been, actually, I didn't put when it was started here, but it's been in the works. It's been going for at least 10 or 15 years. And it's, each farmer has a half-acre plot. There are over a dozen farmers, and they each have a half-acre plot, and they stay there for 5 years as they build their farm business. And it provides key infrastructure for each farmer, irrigation and piles of compost and, even a spot in the, high tunnel for seed propagation, electricity, etc. It even now has cold storage on the premises. You can see that if you can see the top right picture here. And they're hooking that up. They're just hooking it up now. So one of the big takeaways is that there is great possibility for a similar program here, for a similar urban farm incubator, where it's basically a space where multiple farms can come and really get their start for the first 5 years of having a business. And it really helps eliminate a lot of those barriers for beginning farmers. And one of the biggest takeaways is that they really had this amazing relationship with the Parks Department. The parks put in all their key infrastructure, amazing deer fencing, had all their water put in. And as you can see I think I put the picture in the top left here, they had really good electricity hookups that parks handled for them. They have these, all these great gravel roads that take them everywhere they need to go all around the property. And it is, and parks handled that for them. And they have just an amazing relationship with them. And here in Montgomery County, having an institute or a place like this would really align with a lot of our master plans. It would align with the draft Tacoma Park Minor Master Plan. In section 3424, it says to incorporate food system space into park space and the overall goal there. In the draft Fairland Briggs Cheney Master Plan, it says that we would, it basically calls for establishing a local food system and sustainability hub and, exploring the possibility of that and researching the possibility of that, which will include garden projects and spaces for direct-to-consumer sales, which can take place on a place like this. And I would like to posit an idea that, we had talked with folks at the Prince George's Food Equity Council about how to really, get this off the ground. And it would be nice to, in the future, meet with them, foster some connections, with them, and then they can sort of help us to sort of troubleshoot, figure out how parks can be engaged to sort of, kind of facilitate something like this. So for the Equitable Land Access Working Group, what's next? We are going to continue, as I mentioned, to examine equity in the farmer lease agreements and overall in land in the ag reserve. We are going to continue to look for ways to support urban ag. We're going to continue to explore possibilities for this incubator farm project and support any ongoing efforts that are already in the works that we can. And we are going to continue to engage those county planning processes, looking at those master plans and the planning processes and identify ways that we can, look at these plans and figure out how the county can achieve these goals. Great. So thank you for that. And I'd like to toggle to thinking about increasing local food procurement. In the local food procurement working group, we also looked at production side issues, but more in the marketing, aggregation, distribution side. We discussed, first off, we sort of examined, okay, what food system infrastructure is here, what local food infrastructure is needed, especially in terms of aggregation and distribution. I should say marketing also there, but we sort of drilled down into 3 overall policy issues. First off, retail wholesale, private businesses and how to get more food to them more efficiently. Also procurement at food assistance sites. We are lucky to have some programming in the county that already work here, and examining that and figuring out how to promote that. We'll discuss that in a minute. And the institutional procurement, specifically, we wanted to talk about how, institutions, specifically focusing on MCPS first, can procure more local food. We visited places, Maryland's Farm, which is actually in Howard County, but that has managed to sell some produce to Montgomery County Public Schools through the Fresh Fruits and Vegetable Promotion Program, which is a USDA program. We visited Tacoma Park Silver Spring Co-op, which stocks, I don't know, hundreds, and Mike Houston can speak more to this in a minute, but stocks hundreds of local products and we have a lot to learn from them. And we visited Tacoma Park Silver Spring. Oh, the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Co-op hosted a happy hour Big Cat Brewery, which we enjoyed to network, have our MoCo made businesses, local food businesses network together. We had, the local food procurement working group also consulted with the MoCo made Food and Beverage Expo, which was September 28th. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we visited Community Farm Share Aggregation Hub, a farm-based aggregation unit at Common Root Farm. So moving along to retail wholesale purchasing, I'd like to pass it to Mike Houston to speak a little about this.
Sure. Thanks so much, Lorian. So we were thrilled here at the co-op, and for anyone unfamiliar with us, we're a natural food grocery store, been around since 1981 and at our current location in Tacoma Park since 1998. And so we hosted a tour. We got to hear that middle picture. Outside, we heard from Roxanne Yamashita, who's the executive director of Small Things Matter. So they're a small community-based food recovery organization. They do their packing and distributions and various things at the co-op. We partnered with them for a while, but she talked to us a little about some of their product sourcing, actually. And they glean product from farmers markets. They have connections with individual farmers. They get products from local grocers. So I know it's not this working group, but the Food Council has been very active, obviously, in the Farm to Food Bank program. And so just understanding that part of the food economy and how we can make sure fresh product is getting to people and getting to those food access organizations. We toured the store. So Lorianne is correct. We have over 180 local products. For us, we define that as 150 miles from the store, so pretty tight definition. We even started a definition of hyper local within 2 miles of the store. We actually have 15 vendors that we sell that fit that definition. And then we went downstairs and talked with, we had Ivy Baker, who is the community kitchen program manager for Crossroads Community Food Network. So their program has been referenced. They have a micro enterprise program at the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Community Kitchen. And so Ivy talked about some of the infrastructure that they have and the infrastructure that's needed. They're really taking businesses that are graduating from farmers market or cottage food and starting at a commercial kitchen space for the first time, and what's needed at those various inflection points. They hope to graduate their folks up from what they can provide at the kitchen to some of the larger commercial kitchens, either in this area or certainly when you reach the size that you need a co-packing facility that we really don't have in this area, and scale even larger. In terms of retail purchasing, there's a lot of barriers, and we'll get to it in the next slide, but it is legitimately difficult, and it requires retailers who are committed to buying local. Just thinking about produce, you're juggling dozens of order guides every week from national produce wholesalers, from regional distributors that buy from a number of farms, and then individual orders. You need to get products into the store and onto the shelf at their freshest. You need to get the products that you need on the days that you need them. So you have to look at the delivery schedule, look at the case sizes. So there's a lot of barriers, and we've seen in the grocery industry, a lot of the chains are moving away from local purchasing. They're not making those decisions here locally. Was with a group of consumer packaged goods manufacturers last night, and they were talking about buying decisions at Whole Foods and Giant and Safeway all being made not even regionally but nationally. So when we say buy local, we really mean it, because we need a thriving local retail and packaged goods scene, and if we don't have that, these chains are not committed to making sure that the small and local products have a place to test their proof of concept, and can get into just a couple of stores. So on that note, we can go to the next slide. As Lorianne referenced, in September, we had our MoCo Made Food and Beverage Expo. The MoCo Made program has been going for years. We put out a food and beverage guide every year. We have upwards of 70 to 80 different businesses, breweries, wineries, packaged goods makers that make all kinds of products. Certainly, I'm sure someone can drop it into the chat, but make sure you're buying local for the holidays. So what you put on your table and what you give to people. There's some great options in that food and beverage guide. At the expo, we had 33 different vendors. We also did intentional outreach to make sure that we had buyers that were coming. So we had the general public attend and be able to talk to the makers, hear directly about, hear the passion behind these products, hear the stories. I know for us, that when people come in and do demos, that really sells, being able to hear directly from the people that grew the products, that made the products. But those buyer connections are incredibly valuable for again, small businesses that are growing and scaling. I know it's a little hard to see there, but this was the one of the pieces of survey feedback from the buyers about some of the barriers of why they aren't able to carry more local products. The largest one there was matching products to customer desire. So that's looking at what you already stock, what's available from these local vendors. Certainly price is a factor, being able to have space to get it on the shelves. But so we got some great data from the buyers, and super happy to have them attend the market, the expo. And then we can go to the next slide. Then we also got feedback from the vendors who were there, and wanted to call out with a big yellow arrow legal compliance and regulatory barriers that businesses are feeling. I know at the Food Council, we've convened in the past and are likely to convene again, a group to look at some of those barriers around licensing in the county or at the state level, and try and make recommendations. We were very happy in the past to work with the County Department of Health and Human Services to make recommendations on being able to turn in food licenses online, which we now can. Used to have to be only in person. Looking at some of the fee structures for those. So we have great partners, and it's incredibly helpful to directly get the feedback from these food businesses that are the ones going to these events, that are demoing their product and having to make sure that they're in compliance with all the rules, and getting that feedback so that we can engage our partners and make sure that we have the smoothest possible environment for these folks that want to be selling more local food, that want to be out there at events, that want to talk to people, that want to grow their brand, and just try and make that as easy as possible for them. So with that, I think I will throw it back to Lorian.
Thank you so much, Mike. And I don't know, I just wanted to reiterate the point that, one of the big takeaways from touring the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Co-op was that we need more Mike Houstons in the county. We need more people who are committed to local food and able to do the ultra complicated ordering from all the small businesses that it requires. And hopefully we can overcome some barriers to help streamline that process. Also, for local businesses, we talk a lot about developing a regional food hub for aggregation and distribution. There's been a lot of work on this, and we continue to have the conversation on how to troubleshoot here and really make it happen. I wanted to first all point out that the draft Fairland-Briggs Cheney Master Plan calls for a feasibility study for the establishment of just such a facility, local food system and sustainability hub. So that's nice that we can align with that planning goal. And one of our big takeaways is that the regional hub will, one of the big takeaways that we've had from all of our conversations, that the regional hub will not sort of just happen on its own without the involvement of the county. It will involve coordination with other regional entities. And, one of our ideas is to have a robust conversation with the Washington Metropolitan Council of Governments and the other food policy councils in the region to coordinate our planning efforts. And, for example, there's a USDA agricultural marketing service grant out right now. We engaged Washington Metropolitan Council of Governments to ask if anyone if they knew of any, it would be nice to see those funds come to our region for this kind of effort. And if anybody has any ideas to get in touch. So the other idea is that, we talked with the business center to see if they were interested in working with, perhaps one of the already established food hubs in the region to see if they can't come to MoCo. For example, it would be nice to see the 4P Foods or Dreaming Out Loud here, just decide to also have a location here in MoCo. And additionally, we've talked a lot about how smaller right-size aggregation sites are necessary to coordinate together to tie into these regional centers, and that the aggregation sites, that equity considerations be taken in mind as we locate those aggregation sites. So towards understanding aggregation and distribution, we toured Community Farm Share, which is an aggregation facility in Durwood, and they aggregate local farm produce from 12 farms for nonprofit programs and other public buyers of local produce. They have central cold storage that farms are able to use if they need. They have opportunities to expand local production due to demand for the Food as Medicine programs, and they're focused on how their program is impacting other social outcomes like health outcomes, and also that they use contract purchasing. We learned all about how they engage farmers through contracts, and they advance their payments to farmers. So they're paying their farmers at the very beginning of the season when the farmers need it most. And they made a $230,000 investment last year in local farms that grew the program, and that there is a demand for such a program expressed by farmers, and the growing demand from healthcare clinics. So also I wanted to mention that the Food Council also works with MANA and the Farm to Food Bank program to also just understand how aggregation happens in the county and sort of troubleshoot through these kinds of programs. Farm to Food Bank has also been a program that troubleshoots through this program. To the right, you'll see one of their really amazing trucks that picked up at Olney Farmers Market, picks up the surplus and distributes it. We work with Farm to Food Bank to help administer the Farm to Food Bank capacity building grants. So, giving farmers an influx of grant money that will help them with key investments that will help them increase their capacity. We also help them with other like evaluation and communication with farmer needs. And so one of the amazing things about that is that just seeing how the aggregation happens and how it can be done. But a huge takeaway from all this work is that cold storage remains a critical need, and that that we need central shared cold storage at strategic geographic locations, as we mentioned before. And another key takeaway here is that aggregation has demonstrated a success as a way to have a systems level opportunity to increase local food production. So we have a few little areas in which it's really working. Also, we have worked on GAP certification promotion along with Office of Ag. The Food Council sort of, we with the Local Food Procurement Working Group, we toured Mary's Land Farm to learn more about GAP certification. Mary's Land Farm, again, is one of the few farms that was able to sell to MCPS through the fresh fruit and vegetable program in the area, because it was GAP certified. Now, what is GAP certification? It's a food safety certification by USDA. And, we identified GAP certification as a barrier because MCPS required GAP certification for farmers. Working with the OAG engaged a consultant to help farms get, registered or get certified as GAP and work through those. And hence we have 4 farms in the county now that are GAP certified, thanks to Office of Ag's efforts. The food safety certification at the aggregator level will ease the burden for small farms. So if we can actually get these small aggregation units, up to a certain level of food safety, perhaps the other food safety requirements at the farm level won't be necessary. So the Food Council also recently got a USDA Farm to School Planning grant, which will, we're going to engage the Increased Local Food Procurement Working Group as a stakeholder input group. When we do feedback, we are going to engage farmers and really work through all those planning issues with how to get more food into MCPS. Also, this work speaks to our Healthy Kids and Childhood Hunger Plan to really increase the healthy produce going into the schools. Also, the Food Council is making progress on our pilot project at the Agricultural History Farm Park, which is in partnership with Office of Ag. It will be a project that will be a small cold storage unit that will aggregate product, and with the goal of getting the product to MCPS food assistance sites and troubleshooting through that. We want to note that these efforts help Montgomery Park's capital improvement plan's recommendations that call for a local food system and sustainability hub, which include garden projects and direct-to-consumer sales. So, in essence, starting with small institutional procurement, such as purchase of potatoes from Sandy Springs Garden, which I didn't mention, but that it's really already happening. Sandy Springs Garden is one farm that's already successfully sold to MCPS. And so we're taking that little success and building on it. And community farm share sales to SNAP Ed and community schools is also already happening. So taking that success and building on it. So just a quick what's next. The MoCo Made program will continue to find ways to improve efficiency. We're really interested in connecting the small businesses with retail, wholesale, and farms, and figuring out that as the MoCo Made program kind of moves forward. We're making progress on our cold storage project at History Farm Park. We have expanded local aggregation through community farm share and farm to food bank. And we're going to be developing the farm to school plan. And of course, we're going to continue to engage those county planning processes and identify the ways the county can incorporate those aims. So thank you so much, you all. I appreciate that. We ran a little bit over time, but I still want to pass the torch, so to speak, to Massa Cressel and Michelle Caruso for our Q&A session. And we hope that you all have enjoyed this presentation and have plenty of questions.
Yeah, thank you so much to all of our presenters. It was really great to see all the work that's happened this year laid out and explained. So thank you for that. We wanted to start with just a general question and answer session. So just give all of you the opportunity to ask any questions of our presenters. And then we wanted to move into more of a general discussion about kind of ideas and opportunities about the policy and programming that's been presented here and kind of where we see ourselves as a group moving forward. So I'm going to take a look in the chat and see if there are any questions there. You're welcome to add your questions there or to just raise your hand if you'd like to ask your question live. So I will pause there.
I think Wendy in the chat mentioned that she had a comment.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
Oh, great. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the work the Food Council, particularly the Policy Committee, and this the Land Access Working Group did in working with the Planning Department on the Fairland Briggs Cheney Master Plan, and some of the components within it. It's so much more than just like a regional hub. One of the lead planners on the Fairland Briggs Cheney Master Plan was very open to meeting with us very early on in the process, and she's been a big advocate of food systems, incorporating food systems issues into the plan as a means of addressing equity in that community. And so some of the things that are in there have just so much great potential in the county. And I just wanted to highlight a little bit the food system infrastructure study that's proposed in that plan could include things across a broad range, from beginning farmer education, supporting farmer, to an ag tech project. And she envisioned a lot of this in the Fairland Regional Park, which borders Prince George's County, and was thinking of a little bit of other models in other areas and what we can do here. And we, in this working group, were able to get a whole bunch of organizations signing on at the planning board level. And then now at the county council level, the Food Council itself did its own statement of testimony in support of the food system study, a potential study, and other aspects of the plan that support environmental, food production, land access, farmer support in the study. And it was really, I thought, a great example of a large group of people working together to try and take this idea and try to bring it forward. And so it's now at the county council. And so the county council has the potential to if it wants to actually fund a food system infrastructure study, which could look at all these many things that improving our local food system resilience, that could happen to support our local food systems resilience. And so I think it's really important. I'm hopeful, just as a person and as a member of the policy here in the other council, that the county council does take that opportunity to push that piece forward. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thanks, Wendy. I know there was a hearing this week. Haven't had time to watch it yet, but look forward to seeing what folks said. And maybe Michelle has an update for us, but I will go to Kate first because Kate's hand was up.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to add on to what Wendy was saying real quick to say that, as this group identified, increasing that infrastructure in the middle, this plan, this master plan, it kind of starts to get at some of that and explore those opportunities for where can we be in the middle, especially as Wendy mentioned with the, I think that the term they used was an ag tech facility. What does ag tech look like? I mean, we do have, we already have, for example, Bethesda Green here in Montgomery County doing, small business incubation, particularly in the technology field. So anyways, just a lot of potential. And I'm also excited to see where it goes. So thanks, Wendy, for raising that.
Thanks, Kate. Michelle. Hey, Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Good. I'm seeing a lot of smiles and thumbs up. Thank you for this presentation. It was great. I learned a lot, but then I also heard some new things. So there's always new developments happening, I think, in the food system, which is exciting. I had a question about the tour to the Ag Incubator. Lorian, did the staff there identify what divisions or departments were, integral in kind of setting up the infrastructure and the other pieces of the Ag Incubator? That's my first question. Of course, I have you all know I'm going to have a question.
No, and that's a really good question, because I noted that they really just had an amazing relationship with parks. Like it really started as this nonprofit, getting to know how parks worked, and yeah, really that was basically, the one agency I noticed. But if anyone else who was on the tour recalls any other agency mentioned, that's the only one I remember.
Right, and I would add that there was already an existing program within Parks in which Parks was leasing out this land to farmers. And I don't know if I can't remember, it was like a soybean field or something like that. So there was already some sort of framework to build upon. And then, as Lauren mentioned, this took like 10 years, right? Like they started talking about this a long time ago. But
Which
sorry,
is sad. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would add that it was my understanding that they actually lease quite a bit more land to larger farms and maybe some mid-sized farms, but that is a practice that's been going on for a long time, as you said, Kate. Not just that 11 acres. And I don't recall any other agencies being involved, but I was blown away that that Parks had put in a fence around 11 acres. They'd put in the water system with a well, and they'd put in electricity, and they were supporting the hoop houses. I mean, it was an incredible amount of infrastructure. I think I saw a note from in the chat, maybe from Mike, about it was like $300,000. Is that right? It's a lot.
Okay, that kind of answered it, but it didn't quite answer it. I was asking specifically, like within, because Maryland National Capital Park and Planning is a very large agency, and so I was speaking which divisions, or was there a rep there that maybe there was a counterpart here in Montgomery County. That's kind of what I was getting to. We do have agricultural leases in Montgomery County. It's in a different division, but we do have that here within the county. So My other question, and this is more of like a rhetorical question for all of us to, I think about, especially because there has been a lot of talk around this. You have referenced a lot of plans here. Kate mentioned the agro-tech park definition. I do want to mention that I work very closely with the planners to really draft that language. So that is not going to look like a business incubator. It can look like a lot of different things because of what has come out in our discussions, right, with the Food Council and with other partners and a lot of the work that has been happening. So a rhetorical question would be, you know, in addition to parks and in addition to other partners, where would you envision this falling under? Do you envision it like a certain agency kind of being responsible and working in partnership and having an agreement? Does it look like what you're already working on with the with the pilot project with the Office of Ag and the Food Council? Just things to think about. I think we all are thinking about this, but it's always something that's in the back of my head. What is it going to look like when it gets, you have an idea, it gets implemented, it gets executed well, and there's support, there's financial backing, there's infrastructure, there's all the pieces, because we have a lot of human and social capital, but we always need financial capital and we always need that policy advocacy capital in addition to make all of this really happen in Montgomery County. And we all know that there are sometimes a little bit more hoops or things that you have to work out, sort through with internal processes. So just want to put that out there rhetorically for everyone to consider, and appreciate being here. I learned a lot. And as always, I appreciate all the masterminds here that are putting this effort and this energy into making a more holistic food system here.
Thanks, Michelle. Hoops, Montgomery County? No, we don't have hoops here.
Sorry, Michelle, can I just say,
Go ahead.
Michelle Nelson, I think it was Natural and Historic Resources Division of Parks and Recreation, I think.
So to also respond to Michelle, we have emails out with EcoCity's founder. We have some meetings that we're setting up to like clarify how this all started and really get the full story. And I'll definitely loop you into what we learn, because your organization, while very large, you know, played a big role in this. And I'd love to, you know, get your thoughts when we have a little bit more info than we gained on the site visit. Anyone else? Comments, questions? I see some thoughts in the chat. Massa, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I do see a couple questions though. I see from Carol Jones. She said there's money in the new federal climate legislation for infrastructure for edible food recovery and food waste recycling. Is the council involved in seeking those funds to support the refrigeration capacity needed?
The Food Council is not currently seeking those funds, but Carol, you should send me an email and we should talk about what organization we can, you know, reach out to partners and make sure that Maryland and Montgomery County is doing our best to receive any federal funds that we're eligible for.
Okay. And I think, unless I've missed something, if I've missed something in the chat, please let me know, or if anybody has any sort of final general questions about the information presented. Otherwise, we'll pass it to you, Michelle, to facilitate the next segment of our discussion in the last 10 minutes that we have.
This is Ryan with Common Root Farm, and I just had just something quick I wanted to mention. Cool. I think the biggest thing is to look at the scale of our efforts and what we really want to accomplish. If we want every resident of Montgomery County to get $20 a week of fresh local vegetables, we're looking at something like 10,000 acres of vegetable production. For 10,000 acres of vegetable production, you need, you know, tens of millions of dollars in investment, hundreds, or thousands of farmers to do that work. And so that's just something I think about often. And the reason I've worked so hard is to actively build the new food system that we're all co-creating. And my intention has always been, well, there are a lot of people to feed, and an acre can do a lot, and half acre can do a lot. But really, if we want to feed Montgomery County, the scale of our efforts has to 1000x to match the need. And while like local urban gardens are great, they're not going to feed humanity. And so just the only thing I want to share is like to consider your perspective on how deep you want to serve and how many people you want to serve, to educate your decisions on where to place funding and what to support, so that we can build the new food system that's more harmonious, more equitable, and balanced. And as it is now in Montgomery County, it is a struggle to earn a living as a farmer because of the competition we face from large-scale exploitive practices. So it's a very challenging proposition that seems like 30 to 50 people are working to undertake. So that's all I had to share.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that comment and perspective. And it sort of moves us into, I'm going to open the discussion to questions about what was presented. We can still have those if folks thought of something, but also ideas for the future. So I think, we spent this year, and kudos to Lorian for leading, 2 working groups focused on our policy priorities. This was a new structure for us this year. We've never focused our convening spaces around policy priorities before as a food council. And so I think, this was a year of learning, but we want to hear from you. What did you like about this year? Did you like going on field trips? Did you like having virtual meetings? What would you want to see for next year? We don't always have to do things the same way. So we would love your feedback about, how we can move this work forward. What structure might benefit from that? Or what structure might we have that would benefit moving this work forward? And what would you like to see from the Food Council next year? And I see Tariq's hand is up, so I will go to Tariq.
Hey, thanks, Michelle. Sorry, not answering your question directly, but was really curious kind of about the cross-jurisdictional collaboration that can happen. I think we started some of that work with the food policy groups in the region, and I think that's a really big impact and a great starting point for this work, looking at building that regional kind of center, or that again, cross-jurisdictional collaboration, which is so important. So I'm wondering if there are plans to kind of integrate the food policy council's works in the region with some of the different planning departments and other governmental organizations and teams that are working on this, to kind of bring that policy into more of an operational program space as well, and see how we can kind of activate some of these levers we have to grow that regional food system and build out that food system infrastructure, which is, I think, what a lot of folks are talking about in this call, and we're talking about other jurisdictions as well.
Yeah, thanks, Tariq. And I appreciate that question from you, because you and I like to talk about this and work on these ideas together across jurisdictions. So I'll just share with the group that the DMV local food councils have started what is tentatively being called the DMV Local Food Council Collaborative, where we are meeting to talk about what ideas the region could pursue. This group meets under the Council on Governments, the Metropolitan Washington Council on Governments Farm Committee. It is an official subcommittee of the Farm Committee. And so I think as that group becomes more productive, or I think this is an idea that the group will likely rally around to work on together. So I don't know what that means yet, but that is happening within that space tentatively now, and hopefully more officially in the near-ish future. But I think it is important to remember that our food system is regional as well as local, and that a lot of consumers of food are in DC, and a lot of land is outside of DC. And so how do we create processes that support the region as well as supporting Montgomery County and Montgomery County producers and consumers? So, thinking about it in a bigger way, I think is part of this puzzle. So thanks, Tariq. And let's meet and keep talking about it, of course. Dave, I see your hand up.
I dropped a link in the chat there. What I was thinking when Chair was talking about the 6 homeowners, and I wonder if they were all individuals and they were growing food, and they had excess, and how would a number of, whether it's 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 individuals coordinate getting that food to wherever it needs to go? And this Fresh Food Connect I came across a couple of years ago, and I've got some more information on it, but it's kind of like an app on your phone where you say, okay, I got a ton of zucchini here. Where do I take it? In the finance world, you say, every little bit counts. Well, every little bit of food that's grown could count if it was aggregated. So, like I say, take a look at that. I've got more information on Fresh Food Connect if anybody's interested.
Thanks so much, Dave. It's always great to have additional resources and learning about what's out there. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas for the future?
I guess just in response or adding to Dave's excellent comments, I think Harvest Share to a certain extent is really has tried to facilitate where there is excess produce and linking up with local organizations like Cheer and others who have then in turn the connections with the community. We do a regular food distribution. I mean, there are lots of ways to connect with communities. I'm really interested in taking a look at what you've shared, Dave. Thank you.
What's happening in the chat with the AI tool is just like blowing my mind a little bit. The world has changed, everyone. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas for the future? Things you want to see us, working on together, or ways that you want to see us working together next year? There is an opportunity to share that with us via the survey that Lorian put in the chat. So we'd love your ideas and suggestions. Lorian, I'll turn it back over to you, I think, to wrap us up. Thanks, everyone.
Sure. And I'm going to go ahead and put the survey once more in the chat. Please do fill it out. It really, really helps us, and we use it to inform our work. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to our working groups. These people are amazing individuals, as you've heard from some of them, who give of their time willingly and voluntarily to provide their expertise and feedback and really work, put into, the work of finding solutions for our food system. And I am just always amazed at the level of, dedication and passion and enthusiasm of the group, of both groups and the entire food system community, or our food council community. And we're really blessed and lucky to be able to engage you all. And just thanks so much for this great conversation. And thank you so much for just being here. And together, I just feel like we can, solve these problems moving forward. The work continues. I look forward to working with all of you in the future, and look forward to working with you next year too. So thank you, everybody. Please do fill out the survey, and I appreciate you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.